Hi, I'm Sophie from whatsophreadnext and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Please subscribe while you're about. And I'm gonna jump straight into this video because I've got a fair few books here. This is an Unhaul video. Through the course of lockdown, I've been slowly going through books and DVDs and those sort of things and trying to sell them. These will be a combination of books that I haven't been able to sell, I haven't got to the charity shop yet, and books that I've sort of removed from the stash recently. This is something I try and do every now and again. I have a lot of books, so it's always good to get rid of some. This stack doesn't include books that aren't mine, and it doesn't include any cookbooks that I am getting rid of. This is purely fiction and just like book standard non-fiction, although I don't think there's many non-fiction in there. I've got a cup of tea, I've got however many books there are here, and yeah, don't expect me to necessarily know too much about these books because it's an Unhaul. I'm getting rid of them because I don't want them, and quite a lot I haven't read. First up, I've got I'm Travelling Alone by Samuel Bjork, and it's a thriller that I haven't read. My guess is that it came out around 2016, 2017. I know this came out in 2013 but was first published in Britain in 2015. I was really into thrillers in 2016, 2017, and I still enjoy them, but I read so many that I just find them really predictable now. It takes for a book to be something really special for me to want to pick it up if it's a thriller. The blurb on the back reads, "When the body of a young girl is found hanging from a tree, the only clue the police have is an airline tag around her neck. It reads, I'm travelling alone." In response, police investigator Holger Munch is charged with assembling a special homicide unit, but to complete the team he must track down his former partner Mia Kruger, a brilliant but troubled detective who has retreated to a solitary island with plans to kill herself. Reviewing the file, Mia finds something new, a thin line carved in the dead girl's fingernail, the number 1. This is only the beginning. To save other children from the same fate, she must find a way to cast aside her own demons and stop this murderer from becoming a serial killer. Actually, reading that blurb, that does sound really interesting. Maybe I won't unhaul this one. No, I will. I don't know when I'm ever going to get to it. It does sound interesting, but I'm just probably never going to get to it. I feel like I'm jumping about here, but when I read the synopsis of that, I remembered these two books. So I've got Unbelievable by Christian Miller and Ken Armstrong, and This Was Not the Plan by Christina Auger. I am getting rid of these, but I am not giving them to charity or selling them. I am passing these on to Jack's mum. Unbelievable, I tried to read. I got about 50 pages in and I just wasn't enjoying the way the story was told, so I am passing that on. And This Was Not the Plan was an impulse buy quite a long time ago. We're talking, well, I still lived at home and I haven't lived at home for 2 years, so at least that long. The synopsis of this book on the back is Charlie Goldwyn's life hasn't exactly gone to plan. Widowerhood at 33 and 12-hour workdays have left a gap in his relationship with his quirky 5-year-old son Caleb, whose obsession with natural disasters and penchant for girls' clothing have made him something of a loner at his preschool. Only thing Charlie has going for him is his job at a prestigious law firm where he is finally close to becoming a partner, and then he has a lapse in judgment, loses his job to do with an office party. Whenever I declutter books, I send the blurbs to Jack's mum to see if she wants them, and she's kind of my first port of call. There's a few that I pull out and give to my mum. All the rest of these are things that they're probably not going to be interested in. Back to this stack now. I've spoken through these ones that I forgot about because they weren't with the rest of the pile. Next up, another thriller. I think a lot of these are going to be thrillers. I can't remember, to be honest. I just stacked them up really quickly. I can't even remember what's in the pile. But this is The Missing by C.L. Taylor. I, again, have had this on my bookshelf for about 4 years probably. This came out in 2016, so I've probably had this since 2016, 2017, and it's 2021. You love your family, they make you feel safe, you trust them, but should you? When 15-year-old Billy Wilkinson goes missing in the middle of the night, his mother Claire is distraught, blaming herself. She's not the only one. There isn't a single member of Billy's family who doesn't feel guilty. The Wilkinsons are so used to keeping secrets from one another that it isn't until 6 months later, when an appeal for information goes horribly wrong, that the terrifying truth begins to surface. Claire is sure of two things. Billy is still alive and her family has nothing to do with the disappearance. A mother's instinct is never wrong, or is it? Again, I probably would enjoy this if I read it. I'm just not really into thrillers at the minute. I haven't really got space on my bookshelf for them. I'm probably just not going to pick it up in the next couple of years, so I'm going to get rid of it. Next up, we've got Molly's Game, which is the true story of the 26-year-old woman behind the most exclusive, high-stakes underground poker game in the world. I picked this up for 50p in the works a year ago. It was on sale and I thought, oh, I might read it because it's the book that inspired the film, except I haven't seen the film. It's not very long, it's just over 250 pages, so it would be presumably a nice quick read, but I'm just not interested, so off to the charity shop or Zip It or Music Magpie it goes. Next up is Living My Best Life by Claire Frost. Again, this is a book I started and I probably got about 50 pages into this. This is a book about an influencer who's been dumped by her boyfriend. She's got a young child, if I remember correctly, and I think two people meet and become friends. I don't know, I didn't really get far enough in to know. The writing style just didn't appeal to me. It wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy what I read of this, so again, charity shop. I've enjoyed every Jojo Moyes book that I've read, which was Me Before You, After You, and The 1+1, if that's what it's called. I really enjoyed that. I actually preferred that to Me Before You. I picked this up knowing that I had enjoyed her other books, not reading the blurb. I've since read the blurb and just it doesn't appeal to me in the slightest, so I would actually probably see if my mum wants this, but again, she may have it, and if that's the case, I'll try and sell it. I think it's unread, it's just sat on a shelf for a good couple of years. I have got The Giver of Stars on my bookshelf, which I will get to eventually, but is not a priority, but this one just doesn't appeal in the slightest. I have two Sophie Hannah books here, which are A Game for All the Family and Kind of Cruel. I bought these after reading Little Face by Sophie Hannah and loving it. I borrowed it from a colleague and I just devoured it. I really enjoyed it. And then there were 3 books by her that were in a £3 for £5 mix and match deal in the Works. I remember exactly where I bought these from. It was from the Works at Springfields in Spalding, and I haven't read any of them. I've since read the blurb and I can't remember the other one I picked up. I may be able to work it out based on what it says in the front, if I recognise any of the... No, I don't recognise the names of the books in the front. I did keep one of them, but these two I'm not really that bothered by. I did start this one, which was after escaping London and a career that nearly destroyed her, Justine plans to spend her days doing as little as possible in her beautiful home in Devon. But soon after the move, her daughter Ellen starts to withdraw when her new best friend George is unfairly expelled from school. Justine begs the head teacher to reconsider, only to be told that nobody's been expelled. There is and was no George. Then the anonymous call starts, a stranger making threats that suggest she and Justine share a traumatic past and a guilty secret. Yet Justine doesn't recognise her voice. When the caller starts to talk about 3 graves, 2 big and 1 small, to fit a child, Justine fears for her family's safety. If the police can't help, she'll have to eliminate the danger herself, but first she must work out who she's supposed to be. Yeah, and like I say, I started this, I got to about page 40 and DNF'd it, so I passed that on. And this other one is Amber knows more than she's telling. She knows she hasn't slept since the arson attack which killed her best friend. She knows that it is not normal for 4 members of your family to disappear one Christmas morning then reappear the next day, refusing to explain or ever speak of it again. And she knows that somewhere buried deep down in her subconscious is the key to what happened all those years ago at Little Orchard. Kind, cruel, kind of cruel. These are the words she keeps coming back to, but what do they mean, and why is she arrested within hours of first saying them for a murder of a woman she has never met? There is another book that's on my shelf, but it's right at the back and I've triple stacked my books so I can't find out which one it is. But I've still got that on my shelf, which has got the same cover as this, and there is another book by Sophie Hannah that's still on my shelf. Again, I can't remember what it's called, and it's near the back of my shelf because I, again, triple stacked, so I have to organise things based on what I think I'm going to read next. And I'm not planning to get to them anytime soon, but they were just more interesting to me than these 2. A book that I have read is The Christmas Killer by Alex Pine. This only cost me a couple of pounds, and it was only worth a couple of pounds. It didn't rate it, to be honest. I picked it up because I wanted something Christmassy, and it was a thriller, and I wanted to get back into thrillers, and this is what has put me off thrillers and made me realise how predictable they are. If you watched my January wrap-up, you'll have seen that I read Blood Orange. Guess that. If you watched my February wrap-up, you'll have seen that I read The Hunting Party and found that quite predictable too. Turns out thrillers are not my thing at the minute. But The Christmas Killer by Alex Pine. D.I. Walker and his wife moved to, it says Kirkby Abbey. My guess is it's meant to be similar to Kirby Lonsdale. So it's probably Kirby Abbey, which is in Cumbria. He moves there after being in the Met Police, finding out somebody that he helped put behind bars is out and his wife doesn't feel safe, so they move to this town. It's his wife's childhood village, so they know the area. But D.I. Walker opens a early Christmas present. It's not funny, I shouldn't be laughing. opens an early Christmas present, and there is a bird attached to it because it's the 12 Days of Christmas. It's basically a murder along the lines of 12 Days of Christmas. I didn't enjoy this because I was expecting 12 murders and I got 3. It was just disappointing, and I guessed who was responsible for the murders maybe a third of the way through. I think I had something like 50 pages to go and there'd only been 3 murders, and by that point I went, well, I'm not going to get what I wanted out of this book. You'll find that a lot of books that I end up unhauling are impulse buys, and this is no exception. When the Curtain Falls by Carrie Hope Fletcher. I don't know why I thought I'd want to read this book. It's like historical fiction, if I remember correctly. Yeah, in 1952, 2 young lovers, Fawn Burrows and Walter Brown, meet backstage in a beautiful West End theatre during a production of When the Curtain Falls. Between clandestine meetings and stolen moments, they must hide their love from one person who will stop at nothing to keep Fawn for himself. Almost 70 years later, a new production arrives at the theatre, bringing with it Oscar Bright and Olive Green and their budding romance. But no sooner have the cast settled into their dressing rooms that strange things begin to happen. Ghosts of productions past haunt the theatre, or so the story goes. Can Oscar and Olive get to the truth of the matter before tragedy strikes once more? I don't know why I thought I'd enjoy that. I haven't read it, but reading that now, it's not for me. I do like Carrie Hope Fletcher as an actress and a singer, but I haven't read any of her books, and this isn't the first of her books that are in this unhaul video. Another thriller, are we surprised? 2 for £7. You can tell it's been a while since I've bought this. This is Missing Presumed by Susie Steiner. A missing girl. Edith Hind is gone, leaving just her coat, a smear of blood and a half-open door. A desperate family. Each of her friends and relatives has a version of the truth, but none quite add up. A detective at breaking point. The press grows hungrier by the day. Can D.S. Mann and Bradshaw fend them off before a missing persons case becomes a murder investigation? There isn't much to say about this. Presumably at some point when I was decluttering, I looked at the back of this and went, nope, that's not for me. Again, this was definitely a late 2016, early 2017 purchase for me when I was really into my thrillers, and I used to shop at Tesco and pick up a lot of thrillers in there. This is the last thriller in the stash, you'll be pleased to know, and this is Without a Word by Kate McQuail. Lillian had phoned telling her to get Skype up and running. I have so much to tell you. Then suddenly the knock at the door. Sorry Orla, I'd better see who it is, she said. Orla waited. The seconds became minutes. She didn't know how long she waited before she realised that something terrible had happened. 10 years later, Lillian's sudden disappearance remains unsolved, and Orla has found it impossible to move on. Then Orla receives an unexpected visit from the detective who led the investigation into Lillian's vanishing. Detective Moynihan had been receiving anonymous notes accusing him of having failed to investigate the case properly. Is somebody trying to tell them the truth about what really happened to Lillian that night? It just doesn't really appeal. I think this was another purchase from the works. It looks like something I'd have picked up in the works, to be honest. Which is great if you want cheap books, like I recommend it, but I also find they tend to be more impulse purchases for me, and I don't really look into them properly. I used to really like Anna Newton when she did Viviana Does Makeup and all her foodie videos, really enjoyed them, but this is her book that I have never read. It's a lovely looking book, but I am never going to read this or care about it. I know the very reason I bought it, and it's because I'm a fan of Anna Newton. I think earlier in the pandemic I also decluttered. Is it called The F Word? Or it's whatever Lily Pebble's book was. Again, I bought it because it was her, not because I was actually going to enjoy it. So we're just going to move on and pretend that I didn't ever buy this or didn't ever not read it. Lastly, we have All I Know Now by Carrie Hope Fletcher. This is a memoir, I believe. I didn't buy this. I won this when I was at university and I graduated in 2016. So yeah, it's probably been about 5 years, and I think the book is older than that anyway. My name is Carrie and I'm 22 years old. Apparently that makes me an adult. Yikes, hide stuffed animals. Anyhow, grown up or not, I did manage to make it through the teenage more or less in one piece, and a few years ago I started talking and writing online about some of the things I learnt back then, and a few things I've realised since. My daft videos and blogs about broken hearts, bullies and body image, among other things, seem to help people. So I collected all those thoughts and bits and advice and ramblings into a book. This book. I'm not a teenager. This weighs no bearing on my life, I'm going to be honest, so we're just going to pass that on. That's all the books that I am unhauling this time round. I'm sure there'll be another one before we move house. I've got a few books, even books that I've read this year that I know I'm never going to read again. Do I want to take through a house move? Probably not. I also still need to go through all the books at my childhood home, that is one of my tasks for this year, is to sort out all the rubbish that's is still at my parents' house. I haven't lived there for 2 years and there's still a load of rubbish there, so I really need to sort that. But thank you so much for watching this unhaul, and if you would like to see more of these, make sure you like, and as I said at the start, subscribe, click the bell icon, comment. All my social handles are linked down below, and I will see you next time.